Okay, we're live streaming and we're also recording, so we're okay to start borough property if you are Mr. Thielacker.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll start with manager's update then. First, by the way, there are no attendees. Nobody signed up for this, so just so you're aware of that. Most of what I have here, the three items, the fourth one is just outstanding items as a reminder. The first three items are pretty quick. First, surplus equipment. Now that we've moved up here and are pretty set with things, we have a couple of pieces of surplus computer equipment that we need to dispose of, mostly monitors and related pieces of monitors that are no longer have value, no longer active. And the borough's process for doing that is to announce it at the next business meeting. So for example, Mr. Thielacker, I would have that under your report. I would have an announcement that you should read publicly that says essentially, we have a number of monitors, for example, that we're going to get rid of. And we wanted to announce that to people in case anyone was interested in taking them off our hands for they can give us a bid, a low bid or whatever. I don't think they have any value though. We've talked about this with Mike Joseph. There may be a couple other pieces of equipment too that we're still looking at that we'll do this time, or we'll just wait until next time. But assuming nobody has any objections, that's what I would do. Put that on the agenda, have you read that off. That's okay.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, did somebody say something? No, okay. Item two, item B, the 4400 building, really not a whole lot going on up here, but just so you know, I have the electrician up here who is dealing with a couple of issues that we want to have changed. Nothing related to anything that the electrician who was in on the build of the building did wrong. Just some things that we don't like from specifications. And as you recall, I told you I was going to put money aside. Last year, I mentioned that 2 or 3 or 4 times probably. I know you're probably sick of hearing me say this, but I just feel like I feel more comfortable reminding everybody. Anyway, so they're doing a few things, like, for example, one of the things that happened late in this building that was not on the spec was the air conditioner in the data room. That was never placed on the emergency generator. So that's being worked on now. And all this is being covered by the building fund, which still has money in it. Take a look at the treasurer's report every month and it shows you exactly how much is there. And there's some privacy issues I want to work on, if possible, in the big rooms, because of the way sound floats between council room and library, and also the small conference room. And I'm just going ahead and doing these things again under my original appointment as being in charge of building the building. So I'll let you know, and of course you'll see the bills as they come up. Everything though is being covered by the building fund. There is nothing being covered by any borrowed money, extra money, bond issue money, nothing like that. Anybody have any questions about that?
I have a quick question. You know, where this building is up for an American Institute of Architecture award, I believe at the state level. And on the 14th of September, they're going to have a 15th of September, sorry, Tuesday the 15th at noon, they're going to have a virtual tour. I would like to do that from the building, so that in case they want to have, you know, on my phone video or of a particular room or meeting space, I would be able to do it from up there at noon on the 15th. I am using the slideshow that most of you have seen numerous times. And Steve, I think you've put part of it together as well for other occasions. And that has already been submitted. So I will go through that. Jimmy Iams and Jonathan and Rob Foffman and Senator Costa will all be involved in this thing. So I just wanted any of you to know if you're interested in participating or knowing about it, just so that you know. So none of the things that are going on that you mentioned, Steve, they're not happening on the 15th of September at noon, right?
Not that I'm aware of. I'd like to double check my calendar, which I can't
Yeah,
do
if
right
you
now, but
could
I
just
don't think
make
so.
sure that, when we have that particular virtual site visit, that we don't have a lot of workmen running around doing things that look like it might be repairs or something.
Well, there shouldn't be. I'll try not to schedule anything.
Just for that one
I
hour.
always try to keep September 15th open, but in
Yeah,
any
just
case,
for that 1 hour anyway, so that we don't have to worry about having them, ask about it. And
at noon, you're saying?
what?
This is at noon?
Yeah, 12 to 1:30.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. So
Okay.
I guess use the community room if you want. That's fine.
Well, I'm gonna use the council chamber,
Oh, okay.
and then, and have them be on my laptop, for the virtual. And then if they want to see a particular room, I will walk to that room with my camera and
Okay.
show them.
Since we're talking about awards too, just so you know, ICMA has started advertising the fact that we won the Strategic and Governance Award that they awarded this year. So you may have some people who say something to you. I know it's been on Twitter. It will be on their website, and they will publicize it a bit. I don't know if I don't know if they publicize it here locally for us. I need to find that out. If they don't, we'll do a press release. But just so you're aware, that's happening now
Congratulations
too.
on that, Steve. That was a huge application.
The other item C I have, this is on everybody's agenda. It'll be on the next agendas next week too. The capital improvements plan. Normally we would have given you this stuff earlier, but because of the pandemic and because of the bond issue, we waited a little bit. So what I've given you is every capital plan project that was submitted to me or that I submitted. If any of you gave me anything, it's in that packet. That was the second email you got from me. And just to remind you, I'm trying to find it here now. I just had it up. Oh yeah, this is how our capital project plans look. This is the one I started a couple of years ago regarding solar panels for the building, which again, you can also see in the amount of money that's in there in Wendy's treasury report. But basically, I asked for people to give us as much information as possible so that you can make a suggestion. And that's, of course, a recommendation to Finance Committee, and so the Finance Committee can decide what to do. And this is especially important now since some of these projects could be a good start in planning to use bond issue funds if they are long life, 15 years or more. They may qualify as being worthwhile. So you can start to use these projects for that. And because we're late, normally we would have cut this off by now, but if anybody has any projects to add that you don't see listed in the packet that I gave you, please let me know. Please submit something. I can send you that format if you want a blank form. And there may be a couple of other things that we will add to as well. But basically, what you should do, and this is the longest I will talk about this item for the four committees tonight. Basically, I would suggest comparing what you see in this with this year's plan, the booklet that we have, the big booklet. Check to see any items that were not included, because they will be eliminated probably if nobody includes them. And again, submit any projects that you may want. Now realize again, I encourage people to submit wish list projects. There are things in there that you may never want to fund. But if an employee had an idea or a suggestion for something, I did not want to discourage it. I don't want to discourage you either. It may never get funded, but that's certainly up to council. Nobody else is going to make that decision. So in any case, I just wanted to let you see that. There may be some things in there that are for the 4400 building. And again, those things would generally be covered by the building fund. If you recall, for example, one example is we had some computer equipment that we were going to buy when we moved up here. We did buy some, we didn't buy others, we waited. So that money is still there. And over the next few years, we'll be using it to eventually buy a new server, for example, with some other peripherals or things like that. That's all part of the building fund. That will show up separately, but it's still part of the capital plan. So take a look at that. You may see some repetition because some employees may have submitted something that I also submitted because I wanted some information presented that I had and that they didn't. So you may see some repeats, but next month I will summarize that for everybody on your committee agendas. And I will also give the finance committee next month an overall summary of all the projects that were submitted. And then you can all start working on how you want them to be adjusted. So that's the capital improvements plan part of the presentation that apply to all the committees tonight. And I'll just briefly mention them, the other three committees. I won't go into that extent. Anybody have any questions for me? Because if you don't, I don't have anything else.
Question.
Yeah, Patty.
The Environment Advisory Council sent me 3 documents, which I presume they sent to you as well. And one of them included some things that I think should be in, if they're done, in the capital budget under borough property as part of the bird sanctuary upgrade.
Oh, okay.
Is that where it belongs, or should it go somewhere?
Yeah, I saw that. It might, if it has a $5,000 value or 5-year life. Doesn't mean that it has to meet that specifically all the time, but that's
They're
the
looking at
general.
putting a switchback road in to allow access into the park. And I don't know if they included the deer fence, but I think it would be at least 5,000, and I'm sure they would expect it to last more than 5 years.
Well, I noticed they submitted $16,000 worth of stuff, and if that was
That's
all
why-
general fund, I don't know how you fit it in.
I-
But if
that's
it's
why
not, that's good.
I think some of it's the capital fund because of the bird sanctuary investment that they were talking about.
Okay, well, I'll look at it, and if it looks like it's a capital item, what I'll do is prepare one of those forms
Okay.
based on what they said, and if they want to add anything more to it, they can, and I'll submit it to Borough Property in October.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have anything for me? That's all I have.
Sounds good, Steve. Thank you. Next, rec board item, their meeting's next week. So I don't have any kind of update on that. In that case, Dave?
Thank you. Nothing really new on the CITF grant for the pool. Spray park's been completed and operating. We're working on the plans for the electrical upgrades at the pool lodge, and that'll be out to bid sometime this fall, probably later in the fall. The DPW roof replacement, contractor is scheduled to start that on September 8th. They said next Monday, which is Labor Day, so I'm assuming they're going to be there on the 8th, not the 7th. And then finally, at the last Borough Property Committee meeting, a resident of Denell Drive was asked about sidewalks along Brinton, and there was a discussion that led to the possibility of sidewalks leading from Denell to the neighborhood behind. I think I sent out to everybody on council. I did some research and found that the Denell residences have an area called Common Ground behind the buildings. It's a rather large parcel. From that, there is a narrow 10-foot wide parcel that leads to Edgewood Road between house numbers 508 and 510, which could possibly be used as a walkway. It looks level enough that you could use it. There would be built and cleared. Parcel is currently owned by Cost Realty. So I would assume the first step would be to approach Cost and ask if we could use it or purchase that strip of land. I don't know why it's there. As far as I know, I don't know of any utilities in it. Did Cost build Denell maybe? I don't know. I don't know why they own that strip of land, but that's who owns it. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, we can keep looking at that and see if we can, guess, move on that.
Okay.
And my dad's here with me. Do you have anything? Borough property,
I don't think.
Boy Scout project?
Oh, yes. The Boy Scouts contacted me about 4 days ago. And there's a kid that's going to do an Eagle Scout project on revamping and fixing up Bright Park. So he's actually going to start working on it over the weekend. I met with him right after work today, and I guess Steve had mentioned, I guess the Graham folks who donated the property were going to get in touch with the Scotts and give them a donation. Steve, is that correct?
Yeah, originally I talked with, I forget which one now, one of the Graham people, and she was concerned about the status of the park and wanted to improve it. So she was supposedly the one that was in touch with the Scotts. I don't know what they finally agreed on. I know we typically give them some assistance as well, but I was hoping, it sounded to me like she was going to donate some funds to them to do some things. I don't know what they finally decided, though. I didn't hear that, how that worked out.
Okay. Yeah. The thing is, until they get approval for their project, they're not allowed to really ask or find out about anything. That's the way the Scouts run their program. But he got approved for it. So like I said, they're going to start this weekend. They may actually start Thursday or Friday. They're going to clean the equipment off. So I'm going to give them a truck with a water tank on it so that they can run their pressure washer.
All right, that was all. Anybody have anything else for Dave, or hang on? I'm sorry. Anybody have anything else for Dave or Foreman?
No.
All right. The fourth item here is the Bryn Mawr wall. We talked about this last year, and I thought we were going to get looked at and get it taken care of. I guess we have not yet, though. So actually, I called the public works foreman here about it. He said the public works, they don't think they can do it in-house, do some specialty kind of work about getting that block on the wall. But I guess he's looking at getting a quote from a stonemason. I don't know if anyone has any objections with getting that and seeing what the price is, and then going from there about trying to get that repaired.
Hopefully you can see the photos that Jim took on your screen. I'm sharing my screen. He took two that show you the condition of the wall.
Yes, Steve, I think I brought this up last year whenever we were first contacted maybe about this, about maybe adding a piece of flashing at the top and the bottom stuff. I mean, that all has to do with the salt. And I think Jimmy had brought that up and discussed that when we looked at this last year. The salt from the trucks in the winter times overspraying and hitting it and causing the freezing and thawing at the bottom.
Right.
I don't know if it was always best to run the stone all the way down to the bottom like that, and how it's set. But maybe there's a way that we could put like a piece of flashing at the top to the water is running down over top of the rock and getting behind it. So maybe if we can get a piece of flashing underneath that top edge to act as like a little canopy over top of that, I think that's the best course of action. And I don't know where we got these rock from or where they got these rock from back in the day, or if we still have them or if Jimmy grabbed them from the wall. But I don't know if we're going to be able to match these up perfectly if we don't have the original pieces.
Yeah, if you remember too, I think, Bill, we had mentioned years ago when this was being planned, Jim and a number of other people advised this wasn't going to be a good way to do this because of the salt and the trucks coming past us during the snow, things like that. But they pretty much ignored. That's my recollection anyway. Jim, is that your recollection too? They pretty much ignored the suggestions that we had, the concerns.
Yes, Steve, being that it was so close to the road like that, I had Benny looking at it today again with myself, and he said one of the things is too, they should have put mesh into those solid concrete blocks
Correct.
with tack-ons on it, and then put your cement mortar compound and then stuck the rocks into that. We have about 3 buckets of those rocks. We've been trying to grab them as they fall out. Benny said you can get those though to match them. They're all different, but he said you can buy them.
They're not going to be an exact match, though, right?
Yeah, he said it should be a pretty close match. Yes, I mean the ones that are there now, Frank, are weathered
Right.
naturally.
That's my whole point.
You'd maybe have to mix and mix if you have to buy some new ones, mix them in, throw them in here and there.
Or pressure wash the old ones. the
Yeah,
existing ones.
yeah. So Jim, your point about the mesh is spot on. Can I just make one more recommendation? I'm not sure. It's hard to tell from the depth there between the curb and the wall. So Bill Gorel's idea about having some sort of a canopy overhead to protect it, but I also think we may need to put up some sort of either a piece of burlap or some sort of protectant, like during the snow season, just to keep that salt and whatnot from splashing up against that wall. That's going to become like a yearly maintenance project, if not. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. I don't know if Jim and his crew can kind of figure it out, but maybe some sort of protective barrier to kind of just, because, that is exactly what's happening, right? So, as they're plowing or salting, right, that water just gets in underneath that stone and it just pops off when it freezes, right?
Yeah, that one picture showed there's a whole another section getting ready to fall right
Yep.
there.
Right
That one
there. Yep, you got it.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if there's any room there or what have you, but maybe we can put a protective barrier there with some burlap or something.
So Frank, it's only like 6. I checked this out a few weeks ago. It's only like 6 to 12 inches off the street. So that's where the issue comes in. And from what I recall, the street grade and that curb there aren't really much of a difference. I think you can see it in the picture that Steve has up right now, Frank. If you zoom in.
Let me see if I can.
Yeah, if you zoom into there you go. If you look at that right there, Frank, that shows you there's I mean, it doesn't even look like there's 3 inches or 4 inches from grade to bottom of wall.
I think what happened is on that one piece of picture there, I think the curb is actually sunk over the last few years. And if you guys, I don't know whether any of you were on council, they had a major water break up there, a 36-inch line, I don't know, 20 years ago, up there 25 years ago. And we lost the whole wall, went into the creek. And the water company paid for resetting that wall back up. And the curb, I think we had new curb poured and everything. And then we, I think we had a real bad rainstorm and we had the wall undermined with rainwater, and we ended up pumping concrete in on the bottom. And now it's good down in the creek. Nothing's getting eroded, but we've had some serious issues in that area there years ago.
Jimmy, question. What about, I don't know if this is something Benny can handle, but what about if we pulled that bottom course off of rock, maybe like the bottom 10 inches, say, reuse those pieces on the left side and maybe re-poured, put new rebar in and built the curb up higher in that section. So when you do even salt and plow and everything else, the wall's not at grade. I mean, I think that's a huge cause. I think if we pulled the bottom 10 inches of this wall off, used it underneath the Bryn Mawr sign on the left side where the pieces are completely removed, and kind of patched that all in the whole way across, and maybe re-poured a curb there in front of it. I know it's not going to be the most aesthetically pleasing thing, but I think it would solve the issue. I like Frank's idea, but I just don't think there's enough room there to really stop it from hitting the wall. Because by the time you put the burlap or any kind of fencing across it, it's going to be right on the wall. So it's still going to do the same thing underneath the wall.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I chime in? Can I chime in here? Jimmy, do you remember when I went over there and worked on that wall for a few days with a couple of your workers?
about 5 years ago.
Yeah,
6?
about 5, 6 years ago, somewhere in that time frame.
Yep. Yes.
And remember that we didn't do it exactly the way they liked it, so therefore we had to go back and rework it again. And do you recall that?
Yes.
Okay. And then because they're very particular, and then they did have all of the stone. They had them in those two houses, those two posts on either side. So we were able to mortar them in. What you have there is that whole bottom wall coming out. That wasn't the way it was before. We replaced, I don't know, maybe 25, and then we did some mortaring work to fill in some of the gaps for the stone we didn't have. All right, but we knew that eventually that bottom piece, that way it's constructed, is going to come apart. Now, I don't know how much time and money you're talking about spending here, but it sounds significant. So I would be careful before I decided to go down the path of repairing that and what you're going to do. I think that when they originally put it in, the guy who did the mason work was a volunteer. And I don't know if he's around anymore, but I think we should look into something like that before we get down the path of trying to redo this wall, because it's not a simple matter. And you have to have the people that are interested in this wall on board before you do anything, because I don't want to have the complaints after we've done the work because they don't like it. So I would just suggest that you be careful in this endeavor and make sure that you're going to get down the path with everybody on board. And Jimmy can attest to what happened and how much time and effort I put in there.
I just want to add too, that one of the reasons why we haven't done anything, of course, is we have been trying to not spend money because of the pandemic. I'm not saying we aren't spending anything, but we've been being careful and cautious. So I'm not exactly sure how much this would cost us to have somebody come in and do it, but that's another reason why it's just been somewhat ignored because there is a money crunch right now. So it's not terrible, but it's still there, and we're being careful because we don't know what the effect will be until we reach year end. I'm going to stop sharing the screen now. Just unless somebody wants to refer to the pictures again for any reason. I can email these to you too if you want to look at them. Just let me know if you need them or want them.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah, I know there's all these.
Hi, it's Marcus.
I just have one more thought on this as well after Marcus is done.
No, I just want to say hi. I'm just joined.
Oh, okay. Just, Tom, for what it's worth, I mean, at the end of the day, you chair the committee and it's ultimately your call, but I would say, let's do a little bit of homework. I would not be in a rush to repair this wall, not because I don't think it's in need of repair, but if we're going to go through another winter cycle anyway, let's wait, let's do our homework, let's figure out the right way to repair it, right? And then we'll just do it after this winter cycle, because we're going to go through another freeze-thaw cycle anyways with and let's just look at all the options we kicked around today. That would just be my recommendation to the committee for what it's worth.
Yeah, I mean, no, I have no problem doing that. I don't even, even if it doesn't get repaired till next year. I just kind of bring it up again. Obviously, I think the look of it reflects on us and reflects on the entire borough down there.
No, I agree.
We can't leave it in disrepair. So, we got to do something, whether that's, we need to get more in depth and change some things around, or if the best fix is to let somebody fix it. We know 10 years down the road, if it's fixed to put them back up, we know every 7 to 10 years we do it again. If that's the other way it goes, I just want to make sure we be on top of it and figure out what we're going to do.
I don't disagree with you at all, and you're right. It's kind of an eyesore. It's more about just let's just figure it out and do a one-time fix. Is all I'm saying.
We can keep kicking the ball down the street, but eventually we want to have to get it done. So that's how I look at it. But when the time is right, I think we should make a decision to do it. Whenever that time is.
So what's our next move if that's the way we want to go? Then we bring a professional in, no matter what, to look at it and tell us what needs done to.
I think we should. I mean, I think we should get some other advice. Yes, I do. Mhm.
I agree with that. I think sometimes the stonework can be really tricky because the nature of the stone and the nature of how it's
Right,
mounted
right.
clearly wasn't embedded in the concrete in the first place, so makes it kind of a floating situation. I think one other thing is raised by this wall, along with a number of other citizen-initiated things that end up being the borough's issues. I worry about this with the dog park because the original organizers have evaporated and now this wall is another one. We have a number of situations like that which become the borough's burden when we never would have initiated such a thing. So we have to look at whether the people who are engaged with this had any idea about its ongoing commitment. I give you the parallel with the garden club. They do a great deal and have a continuity over like 25 years of maintaining gardens that are on borough property. And it's and they have a system for keeping that in place. This one, I'm not so sure has that kind of a longevity in terms of community commitment to it. They look at it as an eyesore, but there's nobody who feels an obligation to its, maintenance and restoration and, upkeep. And so it sort of has become a part of the borough obligation by default. So maybe we can ask them to do a fundraiser to get a professional stonemason in here to repair it and see where that goes.
That sounds good. Sounds good. Okay.
Tom, I would just suggest that you go down the path that you started there, get somebody to come in and evaluate it. As I said, they had their own guy do that. I don't know what his name is. It's been so long. But if we could find out or get anybody down there, they'll give you an idea, ballparking that thing about how difficult it is and what you have to do. It's not a simple thing like just putting in a wall. I can tell you that. So that's where I would start. And that's what I would tell the residents who are concerned about that wall, that we're moving on it, we're taking it step by step, and we're doing what needs to be done, and we want to make sure we do it right. That would be my advice.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
Sounds good to me.
I agree.
All right, thanks everybody. Sorry, I went a little longer than I thought. That's all I have on that. Mr. Tomasic, you request item number 5.
On the lodge parking lot here, as you know, we had an incident here that occurred. And the one thing, and Frank can attest to this, is I've been pushing security cameras ever since basically I got on council. So we're going back at least, 14, 15 years. This lot that we have here, supposedly we had 75 registered people. We ended up with over 200. That means that the parking lot is filled with cars that don't belong there. I also have been asked about overnight parking. There are people that are parking in the lot that don't even live in Forest Hills. I think that we should be monitoring the parking lot, put signs up, whatever we need to do, so that only people that are permitted to park in the lot can do so. So that as we move on with this security, which I'm hoping we do for both the lodge and the parking lot, that we can get some cameras up there, and anybody that doesn't belong, we can tag them. I don't know what system we would use, but I think we need to make sure we clear that lot every night, that people aren't parking overnight there, especially people that don't even live in the borough, and that we put some signage up and then start working on some type of process where people that are going to be renting and using the lot are going to be somehow responsible for those people that come, and we can do our part by being able to monitor the parking lot and tag people that don't belong there. I don't know what the process would be, but I think that we need to make sure we start that security and get that started now so that we can move on it with the future with the ordinance in place if we have to. I don't think we have to. We need to talk to Mr. Corbel, and then just start telling people, hey, we don't want you in there if you don't belong in there. And I think it goes hand in hand with the security that's associated with the lodge and the events that are happening there. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. Thiel, just so you know, Jim and I had already talked about it, and we ordered some signs noting that it is borough property, similar to what we have out front of this building here. I wanted to let you know that that is in process. We had talked with the chief about that, and he recommended that too, the same kind of signs. And then as far as cameras, I'd have to talk to the chief and SSA, but we might be able to put a few on this building over that direction. I'm not saying that that would be the only solution, but it could be one. There are some on the back of this building here on the Perry Avenue side, but Perry Street side, but they don't go all the way into the lot. We might be able to change that or add that. I don't know, but that's just something else to think about as we're considering options.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah, and with the potential security system upgrade of the lodge itself and getting cameras there too, that should be something we should be able to get taken care of here in the near future. I don't think it's a big deal. And then definitely that's something the police can check on. We can talk to the chief about checking on that, nightly if any vehicles are in there. If we have to, we can put in the rental agreement that, all vehicles need to be out of the parking lot by, an hour after the event's over. They'll be tagged, something of that nature as well. So I'm sure that we can keep talking about some things we can do to keep an eye on that. Anybody have anything else on that item?
I just wanted to mention that Cindy had talked about cameras and she had looked into it already. And that, we do need some signage up there to make an enforcement effort as far as the parked cars. So we are moving forward with that as well.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chief. That's all I have. No, there's anything else? I think we're done with borough property.
Okay, I just need a few seconds to switch over from borough property to public works. If you would just hold on for a couple seconds. Okay, I'm good. Mr. Gorel, if you're okay, we can start.
Whenever you're ready, Steve.
Okay, the only item I have, because Three Rivers Wet Weather has not sent us their report yet on sewers, is again, the capital improvements plan for 2021. Again, I'm not going to repeat everything I just said for borough property. You can essentially read it, but just realize that these projects were submitted late. There may be some missing. In this case, we do have a separate spreadsheet we use for wheeled equipment, trucks, etc. I did not give you that yet because you can pretty much see in looking at the budget book what we have in that particular section of the budget. We will update that and I will give that to you in time for the October meeting. But it's not going to change significantly other than just moving from one date to another. So you'll want to look for that. And again, if any of you have any recommendations, I'm happy to submit forms on your behalf. I can send them to you, the blank forms, if you want them. But take a look. Everybody did get, by the way, the full packet of all capital projects because, again, since you may be using bond issue money down the road for some of them, I thought it only right that everybody on council sees everything now because you'll need to make that decision. I really don't have anything else to say about that, though, unless you have any questions for me. That's the only thing I have as part of my report.
Thanks, Steve. Dave, engineer report.
Okay, thank you. A lot of this is repeats from last month. The 2019 paving project, we're still waiting for them to fix the defective paving on Watt. That'll be done when the 2020 paving project is started. The Cherry Valley water line will be was completed last week, I believe. They may have a little bit of concrete work still to do, but it's pretty much wrapped up. El Grande was notified about a month ago and they put us on their schedule. They said they should be here in late September to start the paving project. Nothing new on the MS4 sedimentation reduction project. However, we did receive notification that a grant we applied for through the Pennsylvania Small Water and Sewer Grant Program was approved for $150,000 towards this project. The total cost is estimated at $238,000. So the borough would be responsible for $88,000, and it must be completed by March of 2023 to comply with the MS4 permit. On Washington Road, Jim Thielacker notified me, we looked at a Cavian wall along Washington near the bend. The wall was built by the borough over 40 years ago and it's lean. We will continue to monitor for further movement, but suggest council add replacement wall of the capital plan for a future year with an estimated cost of $40,000. And finally, another item for the capital planning, Jim had asked us for a cost estimate to pave the pool parking lot and the DPW parking and access road. That's Short Street, actually, between Ardmore and the DPW parking lot. The pool parking lot is estimated at $97,000. PW parking and access road at $135,000. So those numbers can be used for your capital improvement plan. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
I have a question. Can I?
Yes, Marcus.
Cherry Valley is not finished. I don't think they even started yet. I mean, like, they did some digging in the water line, but there is no solid asphalt from each side to the other side. So I don't know what you mean with finished.
Well, what's not finished?
Cherry Valley Road is completely.
Well, it's not paved. It's going to be paved under our project.
Oh, you meant the water. Okay, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Water line, but yeah, the paving is not done. Paving will be done late September, maybe early October at the
No, I
latest.
get it. I misunderstood you. I thought you meant our project is finished.
No. We haven't even started.
Okay, good. And the pool parking lot, I mean, it doesn't look very bad. You know, I'm not an expert, but to me, it looks fine. I don't know if it's really.
Yeah,
good.
there's a couple bad areas. The cul-de-sac and right at the entrance going up that little hill are the worst parts, but the rest of it isn't really bad. The rest of it would just get an overlay of a wearing surface. The other parts would get more
I don't
thicker
think we
asphalt.
need to redo the entire thing. It's like maybe fixing some little pieces, but okay.
I also like having a gravel parking lot in that area because it helps with the water runoff management. If you pave that all smooth, you're going to get a cataract down that hill of runoff water, where right now it's sinking in to the gravel surface.
Gravel where, Patty?
In the pool parking lot.
But right now it is paved. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's the parking lot right now is paved, Patty.
So you're not doing any changes.
Sure. The reason I had Dave put these two estimates in, the one for the Public Works in front of the Public Works garage in Short Street, that also includes the back parking lot area in the back there where we talked about paving that from before. So that's included in that price. And then the pool lot, the only reason I threw the pool lot in is Steve always says, him and I talk, we're looking in the future. If you go up and look at that swimming pool parking lot now, there's a couple bad spots like Dave said, but you can see that asphalt is starting to disintegrate. And I had him throw that in there so that long term down the road, you know, it's not a surprise. Hey, you're going to have to come in and resurface that pool lot. I'll probably be gone before you have to do that. But I'm just giving you a heads up.
You're not allowed to go anywhere, Jim.
All right, Jim, I think you are up then.
Okay, I got our projects for September. And Steve, I need your help here because I was supposed to talk about something under the projects and I forget what it was.
The sewer work that you want to point out.
Oh, yes. We've, over the last probably 2.5, 3 weeks, we have been working on storm sewer issues that are required by the engineer's office. So we're trying to work at least one day a week, maybe two, on that with the new camera truck. So we're starting to plug away on that with all our other work. We had some damage done by the storm last week, so we had to do a bunch of cleanup, and we actually had to do another tree removal off a walkway today up on Elmore Road. Had the walkway totally blocked with a huge limb. So, but it's back open again. That's all I have. Anybody have any questions?
No, I just want to thank you for taking that large school maple tree that lost its crown in the middle of the road, took out part of my hedge, but it was very nice of them to come up and take it out of the middle of the road. It was already getting dark.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Jimmy, I do have one further thing. I don't know if it's on the capital sheet because I'm working off my phone. And Steve, you can correct me if it's already on there, but I would like to get a price on a new street sweeping machine. So
that's good.
Dave, is it on there?
It's going to be on the wheeled equipment list that you'll get in October, Bill. It is actually in there now, I think, too, in the budget book.
Okay. All right. That is something that I would like to look at for 2021 or 2022 with the upcoming bond refinance and other things for the capital budget. So that was my only thing. And I think that wraps up my report.
Well, let me just add, Bill, at one time you could get grants from DEP for that. Jimmy told me, though, he believes that's done. But we are going to need to maintain street sweeping as part of the MS4 requirements. And I believe that's correct, Mr. Gillen, right? That we are going to need to do street sweeping periodically. Dave? No? We're going to need to do street sweeping as part of MS4, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So it is important. That's one reason why we want to make sure it is on there. But I'll have it on there for next month for sure, Bill. It'll be on that list you'll get.
Yeah, I would say machine and signage. I would say we're going to need signage. We're going to need a machine. And Jimmy, by the sounds of things, are you down manpower? I mean, with losing summer help this year, I'm sure the projects are backlogged. Obviously, as well, probably with the split crews, that's probably not helping with larger projects either. So, I mean, do we need more people? Do we need more help? Do we need another hire? I mean, what do you need, or what do you suggest from us as far as what could help you in your day to day?
Well, we didn't hire any. We didn't hire any summer folks because of the coronavirus stuff.
Right.
And so we had to plug some full-time people into those positions where the summer help used to help us. And that put us behind, definitely. I'm still one guy short because of somebody's still off on workers' comp, and I don't know what's going on there yet. So, we're sort of in limbo there. So we just keep plugging away with who we have, and we do the best we can.
All right. I think it's something that we should explore. Steve, if you would like to put that on for further discussion, and I'd like to review the numbers, maybe with Patty, and go over some financials as far as that goes. But if you could add that to my agenda, maybe even for next month, or going forward for the rest of this year, maybe.
Sure.
And see if we can explore this further with maybe Patty and myself looking into the financials and the cost.
Certainly.
That concludes my report.
Okay, I'll just need a few seconds to switch over to ops and policy if you just hold on. Okay, I'm good for option policy, Mr. Lawrence, if you're okay with starting.
Yes, please. Ready to go.
Okay, let me go through manager's update. Couple of things. Ms. DeMarco had raised the point that there was a person interested in joining Environmental Advisory Council. I'm not sure if there's a vacancy or not. I'm still checking that out. I thought there wasn't, but then I was told by somebody today there may be. In any case, I included here the email she had sent to Ms. DeMarco, and I apologize. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
The applicant.
Jakunowicz.
Okay.
There are only 6 people serving on the Environmental Advisory Council at this time, and I think they have 7 spaces. So there is a vacancy.
That's what I was told, but I originally had 7 names, so I'm just verifying.
Margaret Reed resigned.
Yeah, I know. I don't have her on there at
And
all.
Laura Budd resigned.
Yeah, I didn't know about her, so
Yeah.
that's why I need to
So
double check.
we have 6 people: Barbara Martin, Angelo Biocchi, Joanne Morse, Gary Morse, and then the 2 newer ones, Elise Yoder and Patrick Cooper. So that's 6, and there are no others. I did, verify. Those are the ones that come. There are a couple of other people who are interested, but they haven't, expressed by writing or anything. And this lady has sent. She read it in the Tree City Times and is very excited to get engaged. So I would recommend that we accept it if you see fit to do so.
If the committee is fine with that, I'll put her name on there and I'll probably put her on to fill a vacancy and make her term to fill an unexpired term. If that's okay with committee members, just let me know.
That's fine with me.
Okay. A2, I just wanted to also note there, because this had come up last month too with Rec Board. I wanted to make sure everyone was clear on how many members are on various committees and what controls that. I just want, and I personally don't have any problem with whatever you want to do, but in some cases like the Rec Board, Environmental Advisory Council, Tree and Shrub, those 3 are all controlled by an ordinance that was written at one time, and none of them allow for alternates. You did name an alternate for the Rec Board, but none of them allow for alternates. The Planning Commission and Zoning Hearing Board do allow for alternates. Our ordinance also includes them, but actually the State Municipalities Planning Code, or MPC, actually lets us have one more alternate than the ordinance allows. And that's one reason why, for example, Zoning Hearing Board, we have 3 alternates, even though our ordinance only says 2, because the MPC always takes precedence. And of course, civil service and crime resistance are governed by their bylaws and the borough resolution, and civil service by civil service laws. But I just wanted to point that out to you because various people are always suggesting names. I just want to make sure you're aware there is limits.
Okay, can I step in? May I make a suggestion? Hello?
Yes, go ahead, Jack.
Okay. I was looking this over, and it's very clear from the Planning and Zoning Board what is permitted and what is not. But one of the things, I have no feeling whatsoever about whether we permit alternates on these other committees. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. My thought would be this. The borough ordinances are apparently silent on the issue of the Rec Board alternate and the EAC. They are also apparently silent on how a alternate would be defined if it did exist. So my recommendation would we verify with Corbel given the silence of our ordinances on the subject, can we assume that silence permits activity or does not? If it allows us to do it, that's fine. I would recommend that we do that to make sure we're not doing anything we shouldn't be doing. And then second, I would encourage we would define, probably through ordinance, what an alternate is allowed to do. Are they allowed to vote in the absence of someone on a particular date? Or are they only there until that seat is technically vacated by resignation? That would be my thought. We get Corbel's involvement because, like I said, I don't really care. I can't see the harm in having alternates, but I can see innocently going down the road of saying, hey, that's a good idea. And then we get in a situation where we get an argument about what they can do when they're on there or whether they actually can be there. So if no one has objections, I would suggest we throw that over to council, Mr. Corbel, and get an advisory, a thought on it, and then we can move ahead and do whatever council wants.
I can do that. I have a couple of things I have to ask Mr. Corbel. I can include that on the list, and then maybe he can even report next week. And I agree with you. It is silent. I just didn't want to get in a situation where someone was appointed down the road and then somebody else objected because it's not in the ordinance. That's why I wanted to point that out.
We could be very well-meaning and then get ourselves in a place we didn't want to be. So,
sure.
Okay, thank you.
And also too, all the committees except for zoning are advisory. So, you do have some flexibility as to what an alternate would do probably, is my guess.
Yeah, I would agree with that because of the nature of advisory. But nonetheless, if it avoids a misunderstanding, hey, it's worth it.
Okay, I'm going to move on to item B, that if no one else has anything about the first item. Most of the stuff is just informational. Pension plans, just as I mentioned several months ago, the pension auditor insisted we make a change in how one of the pension plans was updated. It was updated by resolution rather than ordinance, and they objected to that. And looking at, I think that was the non-uniform, and looking at some of the other information when Mr. Corbel and I reviewed it, including the non-uniform police and my and other employees' pensions, he agreed that we should just take care of it all at one time by using Randy Rhodes, who is the attorney we use for pension updates. So I've already talked with him. He's already started the process. He will update everything into a plan, and then everything that is necessary will be approved by ordinance down the road. And he will probably be the one to write the ordinance and write the plan, with Mr. Corbel, of course, reviewing. So I just want to let you know that. Now, I wanted to add, I don't have this on my notes, but Ameriserve at the last minute tonight asked me if they could come for one of their two semi-annual reports next week because of some changes they're going to have over there in personnel. So if you don't have an objection, I would put them on finance, Ms. DeMarco, if that's okay.
Yes, no problem.
And they would just join the Zoom meeting as an attendee. And once they get to their point, I would make them a co-host or something to allow them to make a presentation. The third item I have is my email. I just want to clear this up with everybody because there are a lot of times when you refer somebody to me by email, and I think by now most of you know that for the last year and a half, I have been on somebody's list and I'm getting terrible spam. For example, the other day when I came in, I had 70 emails, and this is after I had checked them the night before. And when I have to look at all of them, some of them are obscene, some of them are just stupid. But in any case, I have to take a quick look at them because I'm not sure. Some are coming from people I know that really, and really it's not them. So I am using a filter that allows me to get emails from you. But if you refer somebody else to my email account, it's probably going to get deleted. I'll never see it, or it'll go to junk folder, and I'll only see it whenever I clear out my junk folder periodically, but not often. There is a filter that I'm using that's part of our webmail system that I've just tried in the last day and a half, and so far it's working real well. But it is limiting right now just to you folks and other people that I know, other people that are in my contact list. That's a lot of people still, but it doesn't include people who, for example, are no longer on council or who you may refer to me for one reason or another. So what I would suggest is if you have somebody that needs to talk to me, have them call me. I'm happy to talk to them by phone. As a last resort, they could use Annie's email, which just starts out admin@foresthillspa.com, and she can get it to me. I'm also concerned though, because both Wendy and Allison have reported to me that they've been receiving some spam too. Not as bad as me, but I'm a little bit leery about it getting into Annie too. I'm not sure what list we're on that's causing this problem, but I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Okay. If you want me to know about somebody you're talking to, I would suggest BCCing me. Do not give out my email if you can help it. Otherwise, it's gonna take me forever to wade through some of these. Any questions? Okay, then the only other item I have is there are some capital improvements plan projects that relate to administration. The only thing is non-administration that I gave you that should be on planning and zoning is the comprehensive plan. So I'll talk about that next week whenever I do this. But basically, if you look at the administrative stuff, the codification, equipment and computers, et cetera, for the borough office, those things that are administrative are all part of this committee. So there's only about 4 or 5 pieces in that total package I sent you. And again, you should review it and be prepared in October to take a look at it. And I will have more detail and try to summarize it for you on all the agendas in October.
Would things that related to the climate action plan implementation be on this committee's plan?
I would say probably yes. So if it's a capital project that should be added to that, it would probably be this.
No,
If
we're
not,
not going to get any software. We're going to go with the Connect using the ICLEI ClearPath software through the Connect contract. That way we don't have to pay for it again.
But I would say through the normal general fund budget process, which we're going to talk about next week a little bit, that's where I would submit something. I would actually have you or whoever's doing it submit it if
Yeah, they will.
if it's environmental advisory or somebody like that. I don't have anything else to report under my report.
I don't have anything else. Anyone else? Last call. I believe that's it then, sir.
Okay, just to get a couple seconds and I'll be ready for public safety. Okay, Mr. Erbaldinger, I'm good for public safety whenever you want to start.
I'm ready.
Okay, the only item I have other than outstanding items, and I should mention outstanding items lists cameras at various locations. That is in the capital plan, just so you know. The only other item I have is just a reminder that you got information on the capital plan that relate to public safety. There are things that were submitted by the chief. There are other things that were submitted by the fire department, and they are in that packet I emailed to you. It should be pretty obvious, I think, as the second email I sent out this afternoon. So I'm not going to go over that, but again, review it, bring it back with you, or I will give it to you if it's a Zoom meeting again in October, along with a summary. And that's when the committee should begin to discuss it as far as what they want to recommend to Finance Committee. And that's all I have if you don't have any questions for me.
I'm good. So next, utility fire department bills. Like, I'm personally fine with those. They all make sense. Any comments?
I want to ask you, Mr. Erbaldinger, did you want me to continue putting them on there every month? Because that's the same thing that the treasurer gives you monthly as well.
I think it's good to have it there.
Okay, sometimes they have formatting issues. That's one reason why I asked, because she does a different format than I am using here, but I'll try to get her.
Maybe put her format in, just to save you time. Just use her format.
Yeah, I'll figure something out.
Doesn't matter how you do it. Like, I don't think you should type everything or whatever you do. Just copy hers.
Yeah, but it doesn't always come over the right way, but I'll work it out. I just wanted to ask.
No, I think it's good. But anyone of the committee members, I think it makes sense to me.
No, I was going to chime in here. I think it's important to have that on the out there. So I would encourage you to keep that. Thank you.
Okay. So next we have EMS report. Do we have anyone there?
They didn't send me the report. It's probably too early in the month to get it. I'll probably end up putting it under committee of the whole.
All right. And I think Patty had that safety of people working on Ardmore Median Gardens. I think it came from Patty.
Yes, I did want to bring up an issue which I also discussed with Chief Williams last week. I believe it was on Thursday. There were 2 members of the Forest Late Bloomers Garden Club who were weeding and watering on the Bryn Mawr small garden at that Bryn Mawr divider. And a vehicle, for some reason, went over the curb into a space that a woman had just instants before vacated. And so now the people who are working in that garden in particular are apprehensive about continuing their maintenance duties without some kind of protective signage or flare or something, because they're concerned about the traffic going by rapidly and having another opportunity to jump the curb and possibly injure someone. And I'd rather discuss this before we have a serious matter emerge rather than wait until we have a real disaster. So I welcome any suggestions you might have. I know it's a state road, but I really think we need to be aware that there are volunteers on the median strip in, I think, 3 or 4 places, and also at the top of Bryn Mawr, where people work on the flower beds and are now feeling a little apprehensive about that because of this incident. It also did some damage to the flower bed too, which was a little distressing.
But to me, it sounds like that particular case, someone lost control for texting or whatever reason, and a signage wouldn't have helped. You know, no one goes on purpose into a flower bed.
Would our Chief Williams, would you want to comment on this? Because I know we had quite a conversation about it right after it happened.
Yes, as I told you, I think I explained to you that there was a vehicle in front of that vehicle who was stopping for either a yellow or red light. And the person behind him decided that he didn't have enough time to stop, whether for whatever cause. But in the end, he, rather than hitting the vehicle that was then stopping for the red light, he decided to take his car up over the curb and take out the pedestrian crossing signal.
So meaning a signage wouldn't have helped in that particular case. I mean,
well, if people are seeing that their workmen are or something in the road, they would slow down rather than try to run the light. I mean, I stand on that street on Fridays a lot of times. You can't believe how people jump the lights down there. It's enough to make you cry.
I think that we had talked about maybe some type of pop-up sign that they could put up when they're out there. I also agree
before or something like that, or like a good distance away.
We have an aggressive driver sign that it basically is a pop-up sign, and you can put it at, and you can move it as you go along, and you put it a little ahead of you. But I think the bigger issue is the curb reveal there is also fairly poor. You don't have a lot there, and there's not much curb to slow you down. It's just like driving into your driveway. There's not much stopping you. So my other suggestion may be to, when you have enough people, maybe one person instead of working should be monitoring the traffic, because you really have to look in both directions, because you come from either side of the highway, whether it be east or west. So maybe you need to have an extra person out there. And I know for the most part, they wear their yellow vests and they do the best they can with that. But maybe they need another person out there just to basically be a spotter to make sure that if something's going on, they can at least have some warning when they see something that they feel is questionable or there's something that may occur. That it would give the looking down at the, you know, the garden. It would give them.
Can we have somebody stand out there with a slow sign? Can we have somebody stand out there with a sign that says slow down?
Any
Can we do that like they do in the construction
ladies to slow down the traffic will be greeted with derision and laughter, I can assure you.
Yeah, you get.
Okay, I didn't mean it to slow the traffic down. I meant it to keep an eye out for the person who's in with their face down into the flowers, so that somebody who would actually have their head up and could at least keep an eye on things to see what was going on, you know, around them. That was my suggestion there. I didn't mean it to slow people down by having somebody out there with a sign. I meant that that person could stand out and at least on the media will be looking in the direction to see if they see anything, a car maybe losing control, somebody not going, you know, on the roadway the proper way, and maybe they could give the other person a little warning so that they could move or do something rather than, you know, have a car driving right beside them.
But my question is, like, I'm questioning if it's wise to have those people actually working on a medium to begin with. You know, PennDOT workers are pretty endangered species. I mean, like, there's a reason that they have accidents. Should we even allow? I mean, I like the flower beds, but to me, it sounds like not very safe to have a bunch of, usually they're elderly ladies, working on the flower beds. I wonder if it's actually safe. I think it's a good point. to me, it sounds like risky actually. We are lucky that nothing happened so far, I think. And we should maybe think about it, what to do with that.
I'd like to chime in here.
Yeah.
I think I don't really know how to put it, but I think that the speed on Ardmore is getting to be a little out of hand. He's mentioned this in the past, but I think stepping up patrols at all hours of the day. I know we just went through an aggressive driving enforcement. Chuck, I know you guys just did that with the state money that we used, but I think having a patrol car down there and sitting at Centurion Commons and actually pulling people over and actually issuing tickets. The warning stuff just doesn't work anymore. I hate to say it. As much as you tell someone, shame on you, slow down, it's not working anymore. So I think when they get that ticket and it's $130 or $150, they go, oh man, the next time I drive through here, I'm going to slow down. I think that I brought this up before when Patty was discussing the speeds on Ardmore. And, I always talk about Pitcairn. Pitcairn speed limit, I think, is 25 or 30 miles an hour. And I know every single time I drive through Pitcairn on the main drag, there is going to be a cop sitting there at one of the intersections. And if you're going over that speed limit by 3 or 4 miles an hour, he's going to pull you over. So what do? I go with the speed limit every time through there. And I think enforcement. I think the more these drivers that are driving the park or driving 30, coming from Irwin, North Huntington, North Versailles, wherever, and heading to the Parkway or the Parkway back heading out 30. I think that you catch these people a few times and you show them that we're sitting down there and pulling people over. And I think it's a whole change of demeanor down there. And then I think things can go back to normal and the speed limit will be obeyed. But you need a crackdown, not a few weeks or a week or two every few months. I think a steady enforcement over a period of time, I think will slow that traffic and get everyone back under control and kind of regain the reins down there, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, I feel like when you're standing on the Ardmore median strip for whatever reason, and the light changes, it's like the bell at the races. And I would really love that stretch of Forest Hills from at least Bryn Mawr through Yost, where they're pedestrian, there are people walking back and forth to the park. There's traffic going in and out of businesses. That should become a speed trap. I would love it to be known far and wide that if you speed in that range of Forest Hills, you're going to get zapped, because we really have a potential disaster. And I think when I was looking for the accident data for the active transportation plan, remember I asked you for the reports, we have quite a few accidents already historically at some of those crossings. And I think it's important that we not just sit here in the face of the PennDOT trying to accelerate the speed in that corridor and understand that this is our town and the speeding through here is affecting our way of life. Believe me, you try telling the garden club ladies that they better maybe think about not planting gardens because it's not safe, you will have a revolution.
It is
these ladies. Believe me, you will have a revolution. I'm not even
I did like this Black Lives Matter demos like I think 2 or 3 times. It is not safe. Like sometimes I think people are distracted and they're kind of veering off and you feel like they're hitting. You really have to watch. And I was watching traffic. I was stepping back sometimes. And I can see if they have to, like Chuck said, their faces in the flower beds, they don't see anything. And someone at least watching the traffic would make sense. I mean,
but that isn't the solution, Marcus. That's
I know, but
interim, safety hazard protection. I think that makes sense, but I think we need to make it known that it is 45 or 40 miles an hour, 35 miles an hour. And if you go faster than that, you're going to get a ticket.
But if we had someone almost getting hit, we should take it as a warning sign and should take it more, I don't know. I agree with traffic is too fast, but to me, they should think about it they almost got hit.
Well, believe me, they're not doing the weeding, and you probably see the evidence of that because people are afraid. And I think that's too bad. When you have people volunteering their money and their time and their effort under great duress to beautify this town, and we can't even make sure they're safe.
But PennDOT wouldn't send, I think PennDOT would not send people on the median without having some truck with big yellow lights flashing.
Well, maybe we need to get them to put a truck down there with flashing lights when we're working on the flower beds. I mean, it's their road. We cannot, have them imposing a hazard on the activities of the borough and modify our behavior just because they want to have a Zoom trip through the middle of our town.
I don't know. To me, it sounds like, I don't think it's standard operating procedure for PennDOT. If they would work on the median, they would have a big truck sitting there with orange lights. I don't think them doing the gardening like we did in the past years is safe, and we should take it as a warning. But Chuck, another question. In the past years, did we ever do like a month-long speed control in Ardmore? Did it help?
We've been out there, but in the last, I'd say 2 or 3 months, maybe a little more with the COVID situation, there's been a lot less in the way of traffic enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see that there's, now people are starting to come back out. I've noticed there's been an increase in the traffic flow, because in the beginning of COVID, we really had very little traffic out there, but now it's certainly increased in the past month or two.
But would you feel safe having, let's say, I don't know, your wife and your kids working on the median?
Marcus.
Sounds like not safe.
Marcus?
Yes.
We're going to keep going round and round.
I know,
here.
but it's two
just
different
let
issues.
Let me say something, okay?
Yeah.
Whenever we have work going on down there, we put a police car or we put a borough truck. That's in that lane. Can we put somebody down there and turn on the lights, Chuck? Either one, and just let the vehicle sit there with the lights on flashing. Is that a possibility?
We could do that, or maybe we could get a borough truck with the flashing lights, the Yarrow truck out there, maybe.
Well, that's what I meant.
It would have to be based on the lady's time. I mean, we don't know exactly when they're going to be out. They'd have to.
It doesn't matter. Anybody can drive the borough truck over there and park it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I'd suggest is looking into either a police car sitting there or a borough truck sitting there, flashing while they're working.
Yeah.
And then when they're done, move it.
I like the idea, because
if that's a possibility, why don't we try that? That's what we do for our workers anyway.
That's
what you had going on down there with all the paving, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't our code enforcement police car have flashing lights?
It does. Yes, it does.
We could do that. I mean, because I agree with you, Bill. I think we have to do something properly, or not just put some signs up on some more. To me, it sounds not safe. And having our code enforcement car sitting there with flashing lights, that would be way better. I like that idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that acceptable?
We just have to find a way for them to pick up that car.
Chuck and Jimmy can figure that out.
Yeah.
I mean, a police officer can take the car down there, park it, leave it there, have another police officer pick them up and go on whatever. Same thing with the public work.
People work there from only an hour or so at a time. So it isn't a huge amount of time, but there were like 2 or 3 times a year when we have the whole crew doing like the season changes. On those days, it would probably be really important to have, a flashing light truck, because you have multiple people in small spaces.
But if it's a code enforcement,
okay, it sounds like
everyone
has come up with a really.
What do you say?
Sounds like everyone has come up with a good solution to try to address this.
Figure out the details.
Why don't you get someone from the garden club or that organization to work with Mr. Thielacker and perhaps the chief to figure how this would be scheduled, and we can see if this is a solution, and if it isn't, we'll come back and address it later.
Sounds like a great idea.
It sounds like a good solution.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good solution, Jermaine. I like it. I like it.
Having an idea. What's next? Hang on, I only have one screen today, so I have to look up on my phone the email. What's next on the agenda? I don't have an agenda right now.
Fire chief's report.
Do we have any? Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I have is, we're gonna meet this week with the engineer on the, fire department roof to get a set of specs ready to go out to bid and see what's going on there. So, other than that, that's all I really have.
Do you know if the fire department started I think you have a truck committee or something. Did they started looking into? Or did
Yes, yeah, we just had our, business meeting last night and we discussed it. Yeah, we're gonna get our, committee to get going here, so.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect. And that's it. Do you have any other public safety issues?
I have my report.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I have to look at my phone to see it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just skipped you, Chuck, sorry.
Yeah, well,
Sorry.
I just wanted to let you know, we had 241 incidents last month. We made 10 arrests, all of them were adults, and we wrote 62 tickets. And I can tell you the majority of them were on Ardmore Boulevard with the aggressive driver, so.
Yeah.
Also, I'd like to request, I know that I put in on capital budget for this year 2021, traffic monitoring system, an AED defibrillator system, and bulletproof vests. Now, those three things add up to about 37,000. Now, my vests are going to be up in 2021, so that means we could push that until January of 21, which could be the next budget year. But I do want to get the AED defibrillator system because we don't have AEDs in our cars anymore. We used to have those in there, and the defibrillators, you know, they are a great help in a situation where you have a cardiac arrest.
How much money is that?
Well, I have it budgeted at 12,000. So
Okay.
I think we're in the ballpark for at least 3 of them with that price. But again, I'd like to price them out and see exactly where we are, and then maybe it would be a little less if we could do it. But, you know, that was part of my capital for this year. I also put it on for next year as well. But I know we have to do the vest thing next year, and the vest thing is the most expensive of the 3.
Yeah.
So if we want to
But
minimize,
AEDs, if you don't have them right now, I think we should get them probably sooner rather than later. Because
we don't have any AEDs right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah,
I think
Mark,
we
that's
should
what I was
probably
gonna tell you.
have-
I'm sorry, yeah, if they don't, I didn't know, I was unaware of that, Chuck. Probably all
Yeah,
were.
we haven't had those for a while, and we kept the ones we had. They were probably, I don't know, at least 10 years old, and they finally failed in the last few years. And we'd like to upgrade and get some new ones to put in the vehicles. So
But I think $12,000 we should be able to squeeze in now rather than waiting until whatever. So
Yeah,
think we should
especially being a capital project, we need to get those,
Yeah.
yesterday.
I agree.
That never should have been not in your,
right, I agree.
obviously, I know
We
you
thought
know.
there was a possibility of getting some grant money for those, but we haven't had any luck with that so far. So,
So I think you should start the motion
Thank
to actually get quotes and that we.
well, I think I have some numbers already, but I want to compare them. There's several companies out there that
Yeah.
possibly get those from.
I think we have to put that to the business meeting, but I think the committee agrees that we should.
Well, that's why I'm asking now. If if you're going to authorize that, you'd probably want to do that at the voting meeting.
So Jack, do you agree too?
The traffic monitoring system's $10,000, and that's for 2 of those units that we mount on poles.
Mhm.
Now,
Right.
we could also consider getting one that's just one large unit, and that would be something we could put on the Ardmore. The one that we have, the system we used to have, the old one that was donated to us, has failed basically. I don't know if we're going to be able to fix that.
Okay.
If we got a bigger unit, that would be one we can't put on a pole. It would require something trailered
It
basically.
makes sense for next year, but the bulletproof vests we have to do too.
Yeah, that's what my concern is. I mean, the Vestal we do next year, we're going to have to be fitted for them this year to get them in time.
So we have to start the proceeding for that
No,
too.
well, we would do that. We don't have to pay for them until after January. That's why I'm saying we could push that until 2021.
But we should start the process, like you said. Get them fitted.
Again, yeah, and we will do that as well. Again,
So Chuck, I didn't hear from you. Do you agree with AED?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So we should put it on the next business meeting to approve that.
Okay. What's the difference between the ones you would use on the boulevard versus the smaller streets? Can you explain that again?
well, the larger one actually is like a trailered system where it has wheels and it's a bigger display. So I mean,
Yeah, and that's the one that
we have that we
big
put on
thing
the
is-
poles. Yeah, it's a bigger
Yeah.
unit. It's like the ones you see on the like the turnpike, for example. They have
Yeah,
And it's on a wheeled trailer and it sits out there and it lets you know your speed and it tells you if you're going over.
yeah,
But it has to be a lot bigger because the cars are going a lot faster and there's a lot more of them. So it has to be a bigger system overall. The ones we
Yeah.
put in the neighborhoods are smaller units because we want to be able
you
to,
just hang them on the pole, right?
we need that flexibility because we really don't have places to put them. People really wouldn't want a big trailer in their yard. So we'd like to put it somewhere
No.
a little smaller.
Yeah. Are any of them workable on Route 30?
The smaller ones really aren't. We used to have one that was donated. It was actually through the COG, and I think it was Paul Cost at the time who had purchased it.
Yeah,
We had those out. You
I
probably
remember that.
big box that sat out there, but it was
Yeah.
a tailored situation as well. Those were really old. There's newer technology that's bigger, and you know it's probably more efficient. They also have solar on them, so you don't run into a battery issue as quickly because of the solar situation.
Mhm.
Solar on
Okay.
that is
No.
so old it was
But that's on your.
Okay, thank you.
That's on
I
your
didn't mean to
request
extend.
already, huh? The trailer, I think.
I'm sorry.
You have that already on your request. Like the.
I do that I have it for both years actually.
Yeah.
I put it on for 2020 and 2021 because I thought we were, we have more issues this year right now, but I don't know if we're going to be relieved of those issues next year either.
Yeah.
We just don't know the answer to that at this point.
I mean, the bulletproof vests sound like they have
That
to.
one that one we really have to do. And, hopefully we'll be able to try to get a grant for that. Again, I don't want to have to say that I'm depending on that part of receiving a grant for something that, we're not guaranteed of. That's something I know we have to make a move on.
Do you have anything else?
That's all I have.
And I think that's it for public safety.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. So back to you, Bill.
Thank you.
I think it was the last committee, huh?
Oh, we're done? Okay. Then good night and sleep tight and see you next week. I
Thanks,
can't wait.
everybody.
Sweet dreams.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Good night.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.